So this is Beckett Asia Pacific company in Beijing, China, and they're making burners, yeah, their products. They also make like igniters and stuff. This is their main factory facility in Beijing, China. They're based in Ohio.
So there's 4 different ways it can be done. And less than 25% of the time is done right. And which is not good for manufacturing. And so what happens when you put a piece of plastic in a metal with ceramic edges together? It goes in the round file bit. And this is very expensive. It starts to add up all of this waste. So what you do in your process is very important in manufacturing. I'll put this back. Down here is a transformer machine that I told you about that's designed and built to control our quality. And so you can see these fine strands of copper. Can everybody see the copper here? So the copper is very thin. And we buy this from a reputable source. It's a little more expensive so that it's uniform copper. If we outsource this, what they'll do is they'll change to an inferior source of copper, which dimensionally changes because they don't process it correctly. It's less expensive for them to process, which means they save money. So we designed this machine, we brought this in-house, and we put this here, and we run it down a magnetic wire here, and then on through the soldering process. What we then do is we epoxy that transformer, because you want to pull all the air out of that transformer, because remember, you're generating 10,000 volts. Any air, dielectric of 1, is going to jump, spark, and explode. And so you'll see down here at the end, we actually pot the transformer here in-house, and then we do the final potting over here after we send everything out to a manufacturer, an EMS manufacturer, to have them do the wave soldering. It was mentioned earlier, we don't do soldering, wave soldering, SMT placement. We don't do that in-house. Why? Capital expense is too expensive. I can get that board, this board in here, I can get it manufactured for 1.2 R&D. 1.2 R&D, divide that by 6.4, and you get a picture of how inexpensive it is for me to have this done here in China. Now, if I bring the machines in, I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of US dollars for the machines. I've got to get an engineer, I've got to get a technician, I've got to get operators. And my costs are out of control. I'm looking at a 10-year payback. It's not worth it. So you have to do your payback analysis and understand that I can outsource it a whole lot better than bringing it inside.
How much do you guys look at where you're getting your products from, how they're treating their employees?
You know, that's good. And so the question is, do we look at a Foxconn where people are jumping off buildings because they're treated wrong, and do we not use them? The answer is yes. From an ethical standpoint, we look for suppliers that want to work with us that treat their employees like we treat ours. When you guys walked in, you saw a garden out here. We planted that garden for our employees. We planted it this year. I'm going to put a building out there maybe next year. But this year, we planted a garden for everybody, and they go out at lunchtime, and they'll pick cucumbers, and they love it. And so it's part of what we do for our employees. The EMS company that does this board moved right next door. And so they wanted to work with us so bad that they moved their factory next door to us. And so they deliver just in time to our line 2 to 3 times a day. They'll walk in and deliver product to our line. Again, efficiency, no inventory holding cost, so less cost, greater efficiency. Okay? Yeah. I love it. You guys are right on top of it. So, it's not purposeful that we hired all girls. I did not tell my team, go out and hire girls, because they work hard. The truth is, they do work harder. And so what happens is they kind of weed themselves out. When I was in Galtronics, back in the early 90s, I hired older men, older women, I hired younger men. I hired women ages 25 to 28 with one child. And what I found was the women 25 to 28 with one child were much more productive because they had something to work for. They had that child that they were working for. The boys wanted to flirt. The old men wanted to smoke and drink tea, and the old women wanted to talk all day. And no matter how you encourage them, that's the way they work. And so we have hired all demographics here. Mainly in this area, though, the demographics are young. And so you'll have young men and young women come on board. And what happens after a little while is the young men end up leaving because they just they can't keep up with the women. I don't know. It's amazing. I've seen, there was this one woman in my last factory, and we used to have a trim process. And I would put the antenna in and I would trim it. Chipunk, the next antenna, chipunk, chipunk. She has a handful. Bonk, 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 bonk. What is she doing? You know, and then I said, well, I need you to test that. Every one of them was perfect. I couldn't, my eyes couldn't see as fast as she was going. So it's just amazing. Now you'll find that your employees in each process step will become proficient like that. You don't want them to become that proficient because then they're critical. So what happens if they get sick or they leave? You know, God forbid they leave and get a better job. So you must cross-train. She's only been here a few weeks. She's doing great. So you cross-train and you move your people across the line, including our clean room for our European customers. We built this clean room. And they're excited about that because it just improves quality. It doesn't improve quality that much, but the perception of quality is much greater. And so, are they going to leave us? No. If they look for another supplier that's a little less expensive, because yeah, but Tony's got that clean room, and so they're going to stay with us. We'll step down and take a look at it. Yeah, sure.